Okay, we should be live. Welcome back, everyone, to another town hall. Share my screen. Okay. So we just, John and I and some others just got out of another meeting that ran right up to this one. So I am underprepared for this. I apologize, but we'll muddle our way through. Sarah, I'm going to ask if you can help us with notes again. I'd appreciate that. So for action items, Rick is working on the chapter audit. Any updates on how that's going?
It actually is going very well.
Oh, good.
I've actually got a new process that has been tested 3 times, where it actually ran the gamut on every chapter. It has a really interesting filtering capability. What I'm looking to do is build something we can use again, so it isn't just a one-off. And it talks to the awesome spreadsheet, but I didn't want it updating that spreadsheet automatically. I wanted to be able to control that. But it has all these links, these filter links in it, and it will send, it actually concatenates all the different email IDs together. It sends it out. It even sends a list of all their existing information. So it goes out and reads all the data from the awesome spreadsheet, and it puts that in the email. So it writes all their existing information in the email so they can verify everything.
Got it. Got it.
Then it's up to them whether they respond or not. But so far it's working perfect.
So how many responses have you gotten since you started?
I haven't sent to them yet. I was going to ask if I could send you 1, 2, or 3 of them just so you could see it.
Go ahead.
I thought maybe then you could say, look, I like it, I don't like it. But I can override the destinations. So I thought maybe I'd pick 2 or 3, send them to you, have you go over the thing before I turn it loose on the chapters.
That's fine. Remember, we had talked about doing these translated into their local languages, and I'd suggested maybe sending me a sample that's translated, but that's up to you.
Well, it does it both ways. I'm going to do English and Spanish because the problem is language-wise, I don't necessarily know what to do with that. But
well, my suggestion was you have a chapter list that shows, where each chapter is. I mean, if they're based in Russia, translate it into Russian. If they're based in Germany, translate it to German,
Okay, we can look into that.
Yeah, I figured we'll probably have better chances if we put it into their local language. Okay, so keep us posted. We just got to start sending those out. If you want to send me a sample, you can, but otherwise it's just a matter of trying to get that data from everyone. Jeremy had links to important templates in the getting started section. So this is still an open item. I haven't gotten to this yet. I wanted to make some of our key templates like the waiver of liability template and things like that. I wanted to make those easier to find. I also need to create this job description, although we have a good lead thanks to our meeting that we had just before this now. Brent Hollers, who we spoke to, has what appears to be a really good skill set to help us with this. So I'm actually going to be following up with him to see if he might want to help us get this new matching platform configured. He's got a strong WordPress background, and he might be able to help us get that project moving forward. John, post a matching. Oh, that's to post that description on Fiverr, which of course we might not need now. So let's see if it pans out with Brent, and we'll keep that in our back pocket if needed.
Right, and I am reminded that Rick probably has some relevant PHP skills that could turn out to be useful.
Yeah, I don't know how much PHP work we're going to need to do. I'm hoping that all that stuff, I'm assuming that the PHP was about making the map functionality, like the actual drop downs for matching and all that.
And maybe some of the database
I
stuff.
assume that's all done, but if we come across something that needs more PHP work, yeah, we'll let you know. Also need to email Ian about continuing education credits, which I didn't get to, so I will do that. Sarah, any chance to look at our pinned post on the hub?
Yes, I did do that, and I made some minor changes just at the top, and I got rid of the pandemic section.
Yep.
I didn't change the volunteering needs section.
Yeah, I
figured
think that's
it's
appropriate because we're going to talk
Okay.
about that today, like a good project management tool. And once we get that figured out, we can update this to point to whatever that new platform is, or new tool. So I think this is a good update for now, and we'll just add a new link once we have that project management tool running.
Okay,
So thanks for updating that.
yeah, of course.
Okay, so I don't have any guest presentations on the schedule right now for these meetings. There is a special presentation happening in the next hour where our intern Nush and Ian are going to be presenting to the NIH team some updates and thoughts they have about metadata for our devices. I'm going to try to join in on that. And I'm hoping that eventually that will lead back to a presentation in one of these meetings as far as what they actually got done. But so far it sounds like things are progressing, but we haven't really seen the results of that work yet, other than a brief update. All right, e-NABLE metrics. Thanks to Rick for pulling these together. I don't see anything that really stands out as unusual here. We do have a nice, healthy e-NABLE fund balance. I'd love to see that put to good use this year, and we have some important projects. So just know that we have funding ready. Okay, some posts from the hub. Are these the ones we went over last time, or are these new? I think these are from last time. Let's just take a look. I don't know if these are new. Yeah, so this was the one that led us to saying I need to make that release and waiver of liability template easier to find. And so I will do that. I think that was from last time. I assume this one is too. Tracking down a device for a student. 10-year-old student built a 3D printed handle. I think they meant hand, and was sent into the.
I have some updated posts actually. Let me
Okay.
I didn't put them in they're in my notes, not
Oh, okay.
Chloe. So
While she's doing that, the upcoming meeting today, we have an education and new member meetup combined. I know it says first Monday here, but we've been kind of shifting those around. So today is the education and new member meetup. 1 hour after this meeting concludes, that one will start. So 1 p.m. Eastern today.
no, it's actually at noon Eastern.
Oh, I've got my time zones confused. You're right. It's noon. No.
Well, we
No, it
just
is.
shifted it,
We
didn't we?
changed it, Sarah. That's why you're thinking that, because it's 1 p.m. Eastern today. He has another meeting at noon
Oh.
Eastern.
Okay, so
And
no one I wasn't aware of that.
I just edited the calendar listing literally during this last meeting that Ian was in with us. So within the last half hour, we
Okay.
edited it.
So I might not be able to be there for the duration of that, but I can be there at the yeah, I have to check on that. So I was not aware of that.
Yeah, no, that was kind of a last minute thing, I guess. I think I can get into that one too to help get it started.
Okay.
Okay. Did you have any posts you wanted to put in here for us to look at?
Yeah, just give I'm looking at them right now. Give me a second to drop them in the notes. Okay. Jeremy, I saw a post from you. Did you want to talk about that while there were 2 others from
well, I can mention it. I don't think I need any further help though, but I'll just point out while you're looking that, yeah, I posted, where is it? Right here. I've got a teacher in Roselle, New Jersey, hoping to do a workshop with her students. She does not have a printer, is asking if somebody can help print parts. I've already got 3 volunteers, although I think Project sent me another message saying he misunderstood, so he probably isn't going to help. But I still have 2 guys that are each willing to print several sets of parts. So I think I'm actually good here because she needs 7 sets of parts total. And one of these guys, I think it was Jorge. Let me look in my messaging here. I think he said he's going to print 5. Yeah, so Benjamin says he's going to make 5 sets, and Matt says he'll send 4 or 5 at least. So we've already exceeded the 7 we need. So I think this need is already fulfilled. Thank you to those who responded, but I think we're in good shape on that one for now.
Okay.
Okay, so we'll just we'll move on. We can come back to posts, discussion topics. Let's see, e-NABLE chapter audit. Now, I don't remember if I put this in here. It says questions from Sarah. Is that something you put in? I don't remember putting it in.
This was last week I had mentioned let's go through finish going through the posts first. There are just 2 more and then I can talk about the monitoring and evaluation questions, but hold on, we had posts from, okay, if you refresh the notes, they should be there. So there's one from on device parts, and then another that was looks like it was revived with a comment, but a post from years ago about donations.
Okay, so this person is asking about how to assemble an unlimited ARM 2.2 version. He doesn't understand how some of the parts go together. This guy says that there was a part that he didn't use. That might be what he was talking about. Don't quite understand what the problem is. Can you describe better? Don't know exactly when the 2.2 version came out, but I found in March 22, there's some additional jigs for thermoforming. Okay, the link to the Team Unlimited website. Only seen the Alfie 2.1 version. Download OpenSCAD file. This is the 2.2 version, okay. Discussed with Stephen and Drew, version 2.2 is a minor upgrade of 2.1 with a wrist jig for sole modification. Is there a direction for the hand to be printed to scale with it? The files don't include. Okay, so I'm actually not seeing a real question here because this guy said he doesn't understand how parts fit together, but people were asking for clarification and they never got it. So I don't think there's anything we can really answer here. He needs to clarify what his question is, it looks like. Hasn't somebody done an assembly video for the unlimited ARM?
Good question.
Take a quick look, I guess. There's stringing instructions, but you could at least see how it goes together. Phoenix. Here's a limited ARM 2.1 assembly. It should probably tell him everything he needs to know. It shows the whole process, it looks like. All right, let's share this. Suppose that might help. If I can find that post. This might help. Okay. The other one here, Peter, donations. Let's see what we got. Peter Binkley, hey. Oh, actually, no, this was somebody that commented on a very, very old post. So this is not from Peter Binkley. Igor posted something about eSun PLA Plus. He can't afford filament collections like others. He'd be happy to fill out a request form for 1 or 2. Okay, yeah. So this guy sent me a private message separately about this, basically asking about, in fact, I don't mind sharing it here. There was nothing sensitive in this. He was basically saying, you know, he doesn't understand how things work around here, but, you know, can the e-NABLE fund be used to help cover costs of materials and that kind of thing? And I basically explained, we don't have any firm rules about this, but historically we've not used the e-NABLE fund to cover the cost of either 3D printers or materials, that our volunteers generally cover those costs on their own. That the e-NABLE fund is really intended to support projects that would have some benefit to the overall community and not just to a particular volunteer chapter. So we've, for example, funded trips for people to give talks. We've funded various R&D projects that would result in things that benefit all of us, et cetera. And I also pointed out that right now we really have plenty of people available to print parts. Our biggest need is in other areas, like these other projects that we have and need help with. And so I tried to encourage him to maybe get involved in some of those other areas. So I think that was the gist of the question, though, is he was basically trying to find out, is there a way for us to get help covering the cost of, materials? I want to help printing, but I need somebody to pay for the cost of materials. And that's something that we just really haven't done in the past. Having said that, if there's a specific need, if we have a project or somebody that, needs to make devices for somebody and they don't have materials, I, through my business, have a program that could support that. Through 3D Universe, I can provide free materials to support people that are making e-NABLE devices for donations. So there is that one avenue. But I generally do that when it's for a specific, not just to make a device to send off to some inventory. It would be if you're making a device for somebody, then I'd be happy to provide materials for that. Anyone else have anything to add on that one? Okay, so we'll get down into our topics then. Sarah, did you want to clarify anything here on the chapter audit?
Yeah, so along with that, I'm working on a framework for monitoring and evaluation to making sure that the map is up to date, and kind of trying to see what the chapters around the world are up to. And so I have some questions, and I'm just going to put them in the chat.
Okay.
For everyone, but I've sort of divided them into like three categories, and wanted your input on if these are the right questions, and if there are other things that I should be focusing on or asking. So figuring out in the first category, goals, what are the chapter's goals and how well and consistently are goals being met across chapters, and what are the differences between our goals as e-NABLE and then different chapters goals, and then activity, how active is each chapter, and different ways to measure that. Are they active on social media? Are they hosting community events for their members and keeping people engaged? Are they conducting outreach to broader community, disability community? And then when was the chapter founded, and who leads the chapter, and how many members there are, just to sort of see growth. And then delivery, which is something that's been coming up over and over again. Are devices making it to recipients? How many deliveries have been made, and what are the gaps between device production capability and delivery capability? Yeah, so if there's anything else that you want to add, I'd love your
list
input.
of deep questions.
It looks wonderful. My only question is, I'm wondering if we shouldn't figure out a way to combine this with what Rick is doing, instead of him reaching out and asking them to fill out a form with certain information, and then you reaching out and asking for other information. Maybe we should be combining these and get it into one survey or one email.
Yeah, I agree.
So, Rick, do you want to maybe work on incorporating these questions or data points into your template?
Absolutely. What I could do is I could send to Sarah one of these samples. I could have it email her a sample, and she could update the template. And then when I turn this thing loose, her questions and mine would then, of course, be commingled, and we could put them
Let's
together.
do that. So let's modify our approach here a little bit. Why don't you go ahead and do that, work with Sarah, let her modify your template and get it updated. You go ahead and put in those updates, and then you can send the sample to me that you were talking about. So I'll look at the final version, and then we should be ready to go.
I can do that.
Great.
Great.
All right. Anything else on that, Sarah?
No, it looks like Adam has some some thoughts.
Oh, yes, please. I'm sorry, I wasn't in chat. Go ahead, Adam.
It will
Are you
be-
able to talk, Adam, or you want us to read through this?
No. I can talk. And my apologies, Sarah. My goal here was not to supplant anything you were talking about. This is specifically pertaining to doing like outreach calendar planning. So we can table what I just posted until later. I didn't mean that to wedge its way in here.
No, that's all right. I mean, these are very important points. In fact, let me just copy these into our notes so that we don't lose sight of these. That's from Adam Jennings. Go. Okay.
Yeah. So I just wanted to talk to this group either this week or next about prioritizing exactly, you know, what, how we define outreach. And if this is something that I'm going to be devoting energies to, how can it be aligned with, you know, our broader interests? So number one, I feel like I really haven't turned my eye to the U.S. much at all since joining on last summer. So I'd like to see how I've got some sort of nascent ideas about reaching out to hospital systems and other groups, but trying to find some opportunities to directly engage with communities of people, specifically amputee groups, because there are tons of them scattered around the country, to see how we can maybe reach out to these groups and say, I just know that there's going to be, you know, a dozen opportunities where people will say, well, yeah, hell yeah, let's get people engaged and see if there are any people who'd be interested in making limbs for these folks. Then number two, speaking of which, kind of dovetailing with that, doing some more targeted organizational collaboration. So this is kind of what I was doing with the 50 Legs Foundation. That dropped off a little bit around the holidays. They had a big social media push that kicked off right after I initially got in touch with Steve, who runs the thing. But I need to get back in touch with him and see if I can get back on his radar to see whether or not we can get some traction going there, because we had a really good initial conversation, and I'd really like to see if there's, you know, if it has legs. But I'm Tish. Then targeted relief efforts. This is really what I spend a lot of time on, and to be honest, I kind of got burned and then kind of withdrew into a hole because it just I didn't really get any buy-in from the community. And then my contacts on the ground kind of fell off, and I haven't been able to get in touch with them for over a month. So I'm kind of worried about what's going on there. There's also, it's becoming more apparent to me because we'd really have to do things like, you know, work with / partner with the Taliban to get these things in. And I'm just not sure. It's looking much dicier and much more challenging than I knew it was going to be dicey and challenging. But it's just like, I mean, I don't know. Some of the particulars are kind of unpalatable. And
I hate to say it, Adam, but I do feel like maybe you can have a much bigger impact if you shift focus to U.S. Partnerships.
Yeah, no, and that's fair. And that's kind of what I wanted to talk about, because I think I think the goal itself is very noble. I'm not saying I'm noble. I'm saying that I think that the goal of trying to get to these really disenfranchised groups is what we should be doing. But I've hit nothing but, like, I keep running into these concrete walls, and at this point I need to just like wait for my nose to heal before I start doing it again.
That's great, Adam.
But yeah, I think turning inward might be a little bit, would at least give us an opportunity to do some things and like establish a group of people who are interested in engaging more in these outreach efforts. And if, you know, once we have some momentum going, we have some established processes, I think then we could start turning outward and doing these more.
I put that down here, Adam. I don't know if you're seeing the screen, but we do have a group now coming together that's interested in this. So you've got yourself, you've got Sarah here, Brent Hollers, who we just had a meeting with, and his colleague at the new school that he's with. They both have interest in helping with outreach. Okay. I wasn't sure about Ian Roy. I know he's more on the educational side. Did he seem to be interested in the outreach side, John?
I don't.
Okay, maybe not, but certainly between the three of you as a starting point, Adam, Sarah, Brent, I think you've got the start of what could be a good outreach team. And I would encourage you, you know, Andrew, Adam, to think about maybe, I mean, that could be a worthwhile, you know, recurring meeting for that kind of a work group. Yeah.
Well, that kind of speaks to that fourth point then, how do we get more people engaged in this? Because honestly, between this and I think I burnt myself out also trying to do the healthcare roundtable at the same time. And I just ran out of steam near the end of the year.
I understand. Well, and let's move on, because part of this is this really comes back to something that we keep talking about. One of the things that I brought up last time, and I don't think you were able to be with us, Adam, is that we have some very important projects either right now in the works or things that we need to move into. And we really don't have the right tool for project management to keep visibility, to keep everyone on the same page. And so I had asked everyone to kind of start digging around and looking at options. And the one that has been recommended several times, which I've also used in the past, is Trello. And so we might want to think, yeah, so we might want to just think about, it's something that a lot of people are familiar with. I went ahead and I already had an account, so just a free account. So I went ahead and set up a board for e-NABLE projects, but I haven't put anything in here yet. But we could easily start creating a board here for all these different projects. And you'd have one section for, the outreach efforts, and one section maybe for the matching platform projects that we have, another one for our, website updates. There's a number of kind of key initiatives that I would love to get set up in a board like this, where anyone who wants to can see where each one is at, get involved, etc. So Adam, I think you would be a key person to maybe help me figure out how to build this and how to put things together, if you're open to it.
Yeah, I've never built, the framework for Trello. I've used it. Really, it was just in grad school. But no, I think that would be awesome. And honestly, I'm kind of working on a personal thing, a personal professional thing right now, and I'm going to need a good project management solution for that. So getting experience with Trello, I think, would be a really good opportunity here. For my own selfish reasons.
Yeah, I mean, we can just say they've got
great.
a lot of they've got templates in here. We can kind of browse through and see which one makes sense. But essentially, it's just a matter of thinking about what we want these columns to be. What are the different sort of phases that we want to move something through? And then we can have maybe a separate board for each one of these key areas of focus, one for outreach, one for the infrastructure, et cetera. And so if you and I maybe can have a separate meeting, just to kind of look through some of the options and brainstorm about how best to structure that, I think we could easily get that going.
Yeah, just send me an invite. I'm a little busy in the next coming couple of weeks, but next week I should have some windows here and there. The week after I'm going to be traveling. So that won't work. But...
So let me put that in here. Schedule a meeting with Adam to work on Trello setup. And I also need to schedule a meeting with Brent to review the new matching platform, which he might be able to help us spin up and get configured. So we've got possible sort of teams coming together on both of those. Okay, so I will coordinate a meeting with you, Adam. I think that could be a really powerful tool, and I'd love to see something like that embedded right in the hub so that people can see. And that's the kind of thing I was saying, Sarah, we can then update our pinned post and link right over to our Trello board and say, this is where we need help, jump in. And I'm hoping that this is going to make it easier for people to kind of see where they can get plugged in, other than just printing parts that are going to sit on a shelf somewhere.
Great.
Okay. So then Splints for Ukraine, I think, is ready to go now. What was the decision on that, John? We have photos.
Yes, it is ready to go. We heard from Thierry and Julie just yesterday. And they have another initiative cooking, with a French medical care company, which also involves Ukraine. It's not fully announceable. We can mention that they are doing something along those lines. I think the upshot, check me on this, Sarah, because I'm like everyone else, I'm just half keeping on top of this, but I think we need to modify the sheet, because e-NABLE Greece is not a pivotal player, but we should also mention that there are other e-NABLE initiatives cooking involving Ukraine, and then we should get it out and let David get on with what I think he's doing. Does that sound right to you, Sarah?
That sounds right. And yeah, I think we should update the press release and
dispatch it. And and see what happens. Okay.
Got it. Let's see then. Next is the Lumio voting process. So that did complete. The vote was approved unanimously with 26 agree votes, no disagreement or abstentions. So clearly passed. I went ahead and updated, whereas if I go back to the main e-NABLE, this whole sort of instructional section at the top has been updated so that we now talk about, instead of talking about creating a proposal, we basically say just start a new thread, and then you can start a discussion going, and I copied in here everything that we agreed on. So a 1-week discussion. And then we agreed that there's not going to be extensions of voting deadlines unless admins decide that it's appropriate, but you can't just keep extending your voting deadline until you get enough votes. We're going to ask people not to vote on their own proposals. At least the primary author should not be voting. Requirements to participate in voting. We want you to be actually a part of the e-NABLE community. So you should have already joined the hub and introduced yourself in the hub, and you should have those badges before joining into the Lumio voting process. And that should happen at least 10 days before you get involved. So when we see membership requests in Lumio, we're going to check to make sure that those badges were issued at least 10 days before. So there's a little bit of a delay before people jump in and start voting. This is probably the most important change. In order to calculate what gets approved, you need to have at least 20 votes total of any kind, and at least 80% of those votes need to be in favor or in agreement. And on top of that, if there's 10% or more disagreement, then there has to be a discussion in a town hall meeting before final decisions made. But the basic rule is at least 20 votes with at least 80% approval. And then if anybody votes to block, the voting can proceed, but the voting would not get concluded until we can have a discussion in the next town hall. There needs to be a discussion. The person that voted to block would be expected to join for that discussion. If they don't attend, then we'll have the discussion without that person, and the decision will be made to either cancel the vote in its current form or to let it proceed. But the voting would not be concluded until that discussion is had if there's a block. Any questions on those updates? Okay, so those have all been updated, as you can see in the documentation. If anyone has questions, let us know, but I think that will help to streamline the process a little bit. So that's all been updated, and we'll just keep an eye on it. Oh, and I did also modify the permissions so that other than admins, people do not have permissions to start a vote now. You can start a thread, so you can start a discussion, but normal users no longer have the ability to start a vote. You're going to have to now, and I put that in the instructions, that they're going to need to ask an admin, and if they have trouble getting that, they can email support@enable.org. So Rick, if you get something in the help desk that says, hey, I need help starting a vote, let me or John know, and we'll take care of that. Okay. So that's all done. Any questions or comments on that Lumio process? Everyone good on that? Okay. Let's see, tickets. How you doing, Rick? Anything we need to look at in here?
There was one, but I think it's a little bit old.
Okay. Looks like this one is being handled. Yep, that one's being handled. The system's a little slow here. And these you haven't gotten to yet. So it looks like somebody asking for an update on the map and somebody asking about getting started info, which you have a template for. So looks like we're good there. Thank you for staying on top of all that. Okay, so the next topic we have here, and I don't think there's much to talk about right now, but this is one of our major initiatives this year, is to get the new matching platform up. I think it's safe to say at this point that e-NABLE Web Central's days are numbered. It's working right now, but how long it will be working, we really don't know. I don't have developers for it anymore, so we really want to move forward and get this new platform up and running. I think it'll be an improvement anyway from a process point of view and easier to use. So it's really just a matter of getting some of these plugins activated, which handle the translations, and then updating a lot of the content throughout the site. And so it sounds like Brent Hollers might be up for helping me with that. He's got a lot of WordPress background. I'm going to have a meeting with him and see what he's open to getting himself involved in, and hopefully we'll be able to move forward on that project. Others are welcome. If anyone else has interest in helping to, just update the content of what we're presenting to the world and making sure the navigation is intuitive, anything like that. I'd love to have
Jeremy,
it.
on this plan, this French matching approach does require that there are a number of people, once the tool is in place, who play the role of concierges and matchmakers and so on and so forth.
That's right.
Is that going to fall into your lap or Rick's lap?
No, it's going to fall
or-
into Rick's lap. I already prepared him for this. You said
you?
you're open to helping with this, right, Rick?
Absolutely.
Okay, yeah. I mean, I don't think it'll be just Rick, but Rick is I expect he'll be the primary and he'll have backups, and hopefully we can add to that team. There's no reason it can't be asynchronous, and have 3 or 4 people that kind of poke in and do a match every now and then. We'll have to figure that out once we get it up and running.
That's great.
Okay, continuing education credits. I owe an email to Ian to see if he has any ideas about how he can get that going. So we'll leave that for another time.
Hey, can we pause on that one?
Yeah.
We have a lot on our plate, and that's just sounds to me like something we don't need to take on right now.
Maybe not. I guess my thinking was the reason I'm interested in getting this Trello board going is we can kind of put all of these different projects and initiatives up there, and a lot of them are going to just sit in the idle stage
That's
until
fair.
but
Okay.
I want to have them on the radar, and then only some of them are going to move forward, based on priority.
Okay.
And that brings us to getting things done. I think we've covered that. We'll work on a Trello board. I think that might be a really good tool for doing this. And so Adam and I will try to get a start on that and report back next time. We had a good meeting this morning related to collection and distribution of e-NABLE devices. John, you want to provide kind of a summary of that? And I'm going to step away for a minute while you do that. I'll be right back.
So we met this morning with Brent Hollers and his colleague at his new school, Jacqueline Murphy in Georgia. Sequoia High School in Georgia and Brent actually did an extraordinary amount of work collecting devices that were sent to them. I do want to make sure, am I connected? Are people moving? Yes, I saw Sarah blink. That's good enough for me. Okay. And there's a closet full of enabled devices, and Brent is in a new situation and is quite keen to help us get this right. But I was very impressed by, let's see, it would be nice if I could screen share, but Jeremy's not here, so it's going to have to wait. We have, so Brent, for example, is in a position now to help with fabrication because he's a new IT director, and Jacqueline is a STEM director, and partnerships is a priority for them in their new position. And they've got some new machines that they're very into. So they're a group that I had never seen face to face and didn't really understand until today. And you realize that this is a general problem. Jeremy, can you let me share my screen?
Yeah, sure.
So, subsequent to the meeting, that is in the last 20 minutes, I did this. And what's most interesting about this is that it's not an org chart of any kind. We have, I think, these key functions. There's education, there's outreach, there's infrastructure, there's delivery and tracking. We've got present company, including Brent, who impressed us today as a potential keeper. But you'll notice everyone else here, and Adam is back, but up until today's meeting, I wasn't positive we'd see Adam again. So I'm really pleased you're here.
Mm-hmm.
And we want to take special efforts to make sure that we don't burn you out again on the next in 2023. And then there are a bunch of initiatives. Jeremy's just talked about Lumio governance. The e-NABLE Fund just got some money. The hub gets attention from a number of these people and so on. What really impressed me during today's meeting is that Ian, for example, is presenting to the NIH later today. Just by virtue of the fact that we discovered that an hour ago, Jeremy's going to attend that meeting today. But if we hadn't bumped into each other because of this education meeting, we wouldn't have known about it. And yet they're doing a lot of really important work that's going to be highly visible to the world. Similarly, what Brent has been doing is potentially significant, but we never laid eyes on Brent until today. And today, Rick and Sarah agreed to coordinate the chapter audit and the chapter monitoring thing, et cetera, et cetera. But that was only today. I'm just struck by how fractured things are, and that while, you know, Jeremy just went through a list of real advancements in our Lumio process and in several other things, we're still only firing on 1 or 2 cylinders on a V8 vehicle. And so I think this project management, let's not exaggerate it. This Trello system is probably a step towards that kind of thing. And I'm not sure what else. I just wanted to ring the bell on this challenge. It's clear that we're going to 2023 with a cast of characters who are greatly to be cherished, some ambitions which are not fully burnt out. And we've been doing this long enough that I think we just need somehow more structure or more process than we have brought to bear previously. The only thing we do in a regular and systematic way is the town hall meetings and the calendar, for which we have Jeremy and Sarah and previously Ben as sort of our stable people. Sorry, I neglected the things that Rick does as a regular in doing the backup support and so on. But there's a lot more, and it just sort of knocks around. So Adam has said, John, we're not fractured, we're poised to optimize. I would say we're fractured and poised to optimize. And that's all I got to do. I've got a diagnosis here. I don't have a prescription, but I do know that I think Jeremy and I, over the years, Adam right now, have found that if we don't have appropriate organizational support, we burn out and things fall back into their old state. And I'm wondering if we can make an effort to do something about it this time around.
I think that what we're going to be working on, John, with this Trello board might be a big piece of that. My gut tells me that this is mainly an issue of visibility, shared visibility across these different efforts. So if we can get this right, I'm thinking about a way we can do the board where there's a board for each of the major initiatives where we can use it as project management, but we can also use that tool for some of these operational things. Who's working on what, you know, and just giving that visibility of these different pockets of activity, I think will help in and of itself, just so that people kind of know who's doing what and where they might be able to get involved. And so we'll work on that and see where that brings us. I think it'll be a step in the right direction.
It is a step in the right direction. I want to point out, Jeremy, that you, and to some extent, that there's also, though, there's visibility into these various things. Which means if the blind men can talk to each other about the elephant, they will begin to have an inkling of how many different aspects there are of the elephant. But I think it may be time to draw an architecture again of the e-NABLE we're trying to put together, because right now that big picture is only at best in your head, and I don't know that everyone else has it.
Right.
So I think in addition to being able to monitor the components and the progress of the blind man committees, if you get my drift, it would be good to have a sketch of the elephant to inform all of us.
Okay, let's see what we can do on the Trello board and see if we can lay some of it out using that and then revisit it from there.
That's great.
Yeah,
that's great. So I'm I see your comment, Adam. Is there a reason why you're texting instead of just speaking up like a
We
Like-
covered that stuff before. Oh, no, there's another one here.
No,
Sorry.
he's got a new one.
No, sorry, I just didn't want to interrupt.
No, I think you should interrupt, and I think you should realize that you're becoming the old guard, but not if you expect us to channel you based on your text messages.
Okay, so yeah, no, I agree with what you're saying, John. I think that I joined partway through the year last year, and I saw a really, I think, a good faith effort to say we don't want to say what this community is going to be deciding. We don't want to, push our agenda onto where this should go. And I think the intent there was good. However, the sort of vacuum that was actively formed there wasn't really filled by people stepping in to make this happen. And so in the absence of that, I think that, maybe taking a couple of extra steps and maybe putting our thumbs on the scale a little bit more might make it seem, I don't know, I haven't surveyed anyone, but if it were me, and this were not a big component of my day-to-day, if I weren't actively thinking of the e-NABLE every day, then I would feel kind of daunted stepping into a leadership position where there weren't a little bit more organization in terms of how projects are managed and how they're voted on, how they're executed on. It really feels very nebulous, which can be good in a lot of circumstances. But like you mapped out, John, that nebula is really dependent upon some key folks who, if they drop off, a lot of things can fall down. So I think Jeremy's idea of exploring Trello is a really good one. I think that trying to get a framework in place that's really accessible and really transparent, with milestones and checkpoints and handoffs, it doesn't have to be super complicated, but it just needs to be clear and reproducible. I think that's the best way to go. So I think next step is absolutely looking at Trello, defining categories, saying, we've got outreach, we've got marketing, we've got actual like project development and looking at, our engineers and what they're designing, and have these buckets where people can follow their interest and maybe eventually replace all of the, dozens of channels that are built out in the hub, that all have 3 members each and, participation once every other month. Right. With these like simple boards where people can just comment or engage as they're able to.
Well, that's great, Adam. And the point is well taken. And by the way, during that period when we were hunting for new leaders, we got Ian, we got you, and we got Rick. So it was not for naught. And
no, I don't mean to say that nothing happened. I just meant that there were a lot of attempts for like a leadership team to convene and have a council, and it just never materialized. Okay,
so I couldn't have said what you just said. So thank you for saying it. And I think you're right. We'll take the next step, and in fact, I got to say, I think that Jeremy and Adam are the most experienced at actually coordinating teams and enterprises. So I look to them to provide a structure that they're comfortable with, that's not too complicated, right? Because the volunteers come and go. They can't master a system. That's right. Okay, great. Thank you. So I think that's a good next step. And I think that's actually a good point for us to wrap up today, because this NIH meeting that John mentioned is coming up in 8 minutes, and I need to be part of that, and I need to get some more coffee before then. So does anybody have anything that you want to discuss briefly before we wrap up here today? I'd urge you to make sure that you or someone else records that NIH presentation, because Noosh has done a bunch of good work, and apparently his term is about to end. So we want to harvest that and find some way of sharing it. I will ask Ian to do so. And I hope you will help. Are you available, John? Do you want to join in on that? That's coming up right now, huh? Yeah, top of the hour.
For the education meeting, I wasn't aware of the time change for that. I will try to
I could handle that one, Sarah, if you
okay.
want.
Okay. Thank you. I
Yeah.
appreciate that.
Yeah, since I'll
I
be in
don't
another
have a link
meeting,
to the NIH meeting.
I can add you, assuming they gave me rights. Oh, maybe they didn't. I can forward it to you.
Just paste me the link.
Okay, anybody else have anything? All right, thanks, everyone. I think we're on a good path. We got some good next steps. I will be scheduling a couple of meetings and hopefully we'll have some updates next week. Thanks, everyone.
See ya.
Thanks.
Bye.
Have a great day. Good luck in the meeting.